morning, good afternoon, good evening, whichever applies to you. This is the Being Your Own CEO Success Circle, and I welcome you. This morning, Fred is going to give us a presentation on how to suggest and support a change in behavior. But before we do that, let's make sure that everybody gets an opportunity to introduce themselves. So, David, I think you were the first one here. How would you like to start?
Oh, I'm Dave Flannery with Affordable Websites for Small Businesses. Here in Rock Falls, Illinois, where we're reaching 80 degrees or 26 degrees Celsius, 80 degrees Fahrenheit. We are streaming on both the YouTube and to the website, and everything's good to go.
Right on, and thank you for watching that, David. You probably won't get much. As everybody here probably knows, I broke my wrist, and therefore I have kept my computer activity down to the very, very bare minimum. So all the various places that I normally post an invitation to this session didn't happen. So, so anyway, at some point I will make up for that and put a recording of this in all the right places. So, anyway, let's see. Sarah, you were here. I'm trying to alternate people. So, Sarah, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, thank you very much. I'm Sarah from Piece of Cake Communications, showing people how to become confident and effective communicators. I'm really excited about Fred's presentation today. It's right up my alley, and I look forward to hearing some new tips.
Aha, right on. And happy that you made it here. Vivek.
Namaste. My name is Vivekanand. I am proud to share my belief with Steve Jobs and Leonardo da Vinci, who said simplicity is the ultimate in sophistication. I aim to bring time-tested wisdom and happiness together into your business and life by unifying, simplifying, and amplifying simple technology and tools. Wake Technology is my company. Together, let us wake up our potential. I am in England, Reading, UK. Yeah, the temperature has been going up, but it is well below the normal for this time of the year. So it is 11 degrees centigrade. So yeah, getting there, but not quite.
Well, welcome. I'm just checking my phone. It says it's 9 degrees here, so we're not doing much better. Welcome here. Now, Javita, I'm trying to alternate boy girl boy girl.
Thank you, LowellAnn, for inviting me. And I hope you are fine and your rest is going to be healed very soon. As a Reiki practitioner, I send you sometimes Reiki, and I hope you will get well soon. And I'm really happy to be here. And I really like Alana's new logo that she has in the background.
But it's backwards. In YouTube, there's a way to reverse that.
It is backwards, Alana.
We'll have to show you how to do that. So, Fred, you might like to just do your intro. I know that you're going to be presenting, but let's do the boy girl thing.
Thank you, LowellAnn. I'm Fred Jones, the creator of Our Future Leaders, where we assist young people to gain the skills that they require be successful communication and leadership skills so they can become the leaders that our world needs. I'm located in Ladysmith, about 90 kilometers north on Vancouver Island from where LowellAnn and Sarah are. It's currently, according to what I've just seen, 10 degrees centigrade. So we're almost the same as Vivek. And I'm looking forward to sharing with you some of my thoughts on how to suggest and support change in behavior. So I look forward to that shortly.
Yes, we are all looking forward to it. Thank you, Fred. So, Alana.
Hello. Hi. Alana here, coming to you from Ireland. My company is ALB Digital Marketing Solutions, where I write copy for small and medium businesses. And I just had my logo designed, and it looks, when I'm looking at it, I can read it perfectly, but apparently you can't. So I have to make some changes there. But yeah, I'm really happy with my new logo, and I have it up on my website, and the girl who did it is fresh out of college, and she did a great job. So yeah.
Well, Alana, we can see that it is quite lovely. So
Thank you.
later, if you need help, we've all been through that. So there is an adjustment in Zoom.
Yeah, well, I'm actually I'm switching it over in Canva right now. I'm gonna save it and maybe upload it.
Aha.
So if I can, we'll see.
Right on. Well, but in Zoom there is a setting that just that will reverse it.
Okay, I might take a look at that.
Yeah.
I might
Yeah.
I'll stay online, but I'll just like step off for a bit.
Okay. Right on. David.
Yeah, Matthew's trying to get in. It's not us. He's having trouble with his Zoom. So he might pop in here in a few minutes.
Oh, okay. Keep trying, Matthew. I guess I didn't introduce myself. I'm LowellAnn, as you can see by my banner up there. I have numerous websites, and right now, my most recent project is working with Vivek and creating the website for courses website. And we've been posting little mini courses on there as blogs. So I encourage you all to go and visit that website. Oh, maybe I should change my background when I'm talking about that, shouldn't I? I will do that. Let's see if I can do it. Let's see how quickly I can do it. There. There. Oh, there. We're a matching pair. Yes, we did a little work yesterday, and you'll find that there's at least 2 mini courses, free mini courses that are on the website for courses site. So
I was just there and saw that.
You were?
Yeah, well, about 10 minutes before the show started.
Oh, right on. Yes, and I might just say we were our conversation beforehand. We were messing around for quite a while. I was because of my wrist. I came on as early as I could, so I could take my time. We were chatting, and I've been sharing with others the fact that I've been using voice to text, mostly on my phone at this stage of the game. And for anybody who would like to know how to do that, this is an Android phone, by the way. You start with what's called a Gboard, and the Gboard is the Google keyboard. And on that Google keyboard is a microphone that allows you to speak, and it converts your voice to text. So that's a little tip that has been very helpful for me. Sometime later, I'll share what I'm learning about using voice typing on Google Docs. Played with that a little bit yesterday, but I need to learn how to make it work better. So, anyway. So, Fred, we are so all of us looking forward to your presentation this morning, because last week we were regaled with Vivek's "Who Moved My Cheese," and I say regaled because visually it was really fun, and he actually dramatized parts of it as well while he was presenting, and it was really fun. But it seemed the message that the main message in Who Moved My Cheese was all about change, and the fact that we have to change our thinking and change our habits, etc., etc. And so somewhere in there we began to realize that if we're talking about change, we're also I think what we did, I'm trying to remember. Fred, you and Sarah were talking about the feedback mechanism that you use in your speakers group, and then so we were talking about feedback, etc., etc., and then so the topic just kind of grew as a result of a little bit of what came out of Who Moved My Cheese, and a little bit of giving and receiving feedback. And so hence we came up with the topic of how to suggest and support a change in behavior. And we can see Matthew just joined us, so he must have got his Zoom to work to some degree at least. So welcome here, Matthew. We're glad you made it. So having given that little bit of backstory, I turn this over to Fred, who's going to give us a presentation.
Thank you very much, LowellAnn. I appreciate it. A great introduction. It's really what I wrote, but I didn't send to you. So thank you. You read my mind. How to suggest and support change in behavior. And I wanted to thank LowellAnn because this is an amazing topic. It's a fantastic topic that was suggested from that. What you mentioned was, it was prompted by the evaluations and feedback that we do at, for example, at AGRA speakers meeting where you and Vivek and Javita attended. And that feedback is how we suggest some changes. But also, last week's presentation, Who Moved My Cheese, which was, as you mentioned, a wonderful presentation that Vivek did, on how we react differently to change. And everybody reacts differently. So that's where this topic came up. And it's a very significant topic. As I started to say, what am I going to talk about? How am I going to handle this? Because introducing positive change is addressed in some way in a multitude of books. It's unbelievable when I start looking. I have notes on about 300 books that I review. I review books regularly, and I start going through that, and I said, wow, this is about change. It might be about finances, it might be about health, it might be about whatever, but this is what these books are about. There's a plethora of books around. So this is a very topic that is everything, like nonfiction books really cover this, and they're giving advice on problems and challenges and how to change and how to solve these problems. So I want to start with why. And I say this because Vivek will appreciate this. This is where Simon's sitting. Always start with why are we talking about this? And why is this an important topic? Well, I think it comes down to how we feel about ourselves. And if we want to feel that we're having a good life and we enjoy having a positive impact on the world and on other people, and we're able to assist other people and solve problems for them, that makes us feel as a human being very, we've had a good life. We've contributed, and we contribute in a variety of ways. We contribute in our families, our friends, maybe at work, our communities. So what is a successful person when we start thinking, well, what's a successful parent do? Well, they solve a lot of problems. Really, that's what successful parents do. What do successful charities do? Well, they have problems they want to solve. What do successful business people do? They have products that help people solve problems. Solopreneurs, because that's part of the audience for this success circle, what we're doing here and broadcasting, they solve problems. What are the problems? So successful politicians, and I say successful, not all politicians, the successful ones, they solve problems. So really, the topic that we have today is very, very appropriate to everybody, really, if you come to it. How do you solve problems and introduce positive change is really it. And that brings us back to today's topic, the positive change in behavior, and how do we support that, and how do we suggest it. So there's a simple answer. There's only 3 steps. It's so simple. I didn't say it's easy. I just said it's simple. Simple is, what do you want to do? Right. What do you want to do? What problems you want to solve? What do you want to do? That's number 1. Number 2, you create routines and habits that will get you there. So you got to start working on it. So you spend some time doing it. Okay, so you know what your problem is, you know what you do. And the third, which I think is very important, we often ignore, you find a support group. You cannot do everything on your own. That is an important step. Don't ignore that. We have a support group here, the Success Circle. And that's one example of a group. So it's, what do you want to do? Create routines and habits that will get you there, and find your support group. So that's the end of my presentation. I've solved the problem. However, I think I said it wasn't, I said that's the simple one, but it's not easy. So what I thought I would do is I would share my story on what's happened to me recently. And I think some of the tips will come through that. So I would say I should start when I was working for a company in Toronto, and I was selling the product for project management. It was called Easy Projects, and I started with them in 2005. And when I moved to Victoria on Vancouver Island in 2008, I opened up their Western office. And I would like to, I found on this computer a presentation that I had about change. And I just want to briefly show it to you, because this was back in early 2000 and probably 10 or something. So I'm going to share my screen and show you briefly this particular presentation that I created. 6 steps in a successful implementation of Easy Projects. So let's see if I can scroll down, if it'll let me. And I won't go through it, but I'll just show you this. There's a few slides, that's all. What's it say? The very first thing, 6 steps. Number 1, change. Because we're going to change the way you operate in your company, and it's not painless. It's not easy. You have to have empathy and compassion, and you have to analyze and planning and strategizing. So that was the first slide. And I like to show you this one. This I thought was a pretty cool slide. You got to stop and realize you cannot go back to the way you were always doing it. You got to change. Again, we're talking about change. No workarounds, no old routines. We're not going to go back to our old routines, and no exceptions, because it ain't going to work if you get easy projects and you decide you're going to try and still save the thing. Oh, you have to have motivation. You start with the individuals. Again, it comes back to what we're talking about. How do you support them to change? Not only the individuals, but the team and the company, because there's a lot of change involved. And monitor progress. How are we doing? Get some realistic milestones, measure the results, implement the roadmap, and then training. Hey, we got to learn stuff. How are we going to do this? Change. So, and involvement. You need to get people involvement. And I like the word there. I remember this clearly. We had management must be involved, key employees must be involved, and you find champions, people who take this and run with it. Because without that, you're not going to be successful. And communication. Well, people are going to say, why are we doing this? Why do we need to change? Again, we're talking about change. And this is what was a presentation, because once people had got the product, I had to say, okay, now realize the product's not going to do anything unless you use it. And you're not going to use it if you don't accept it. So that was the presentation that I found on this computer from back when I was selling easy projects. So I thought I would tell you that was what I was doing when I was working, helping people change the way they operated their organizations with the product that I was selling. So in 2016, in Easy Projects, we got a new vice president. And he decided he didn't like these old guys who'd been there. I was the first employee, actually, in Canada for Easy Projects. The other people were in Eastern Europe. And the fella that I met at a Toastmasters meeting said, hey, I need some help to do some sales. And I started there for 3 months, and I ended up working for 10 and a half years with him. It was a 3-month trial. And then when the new vice president came in, he said, these guys, the one in Toronto and myself in Victoria, they make him look bad or something, because we knew what we were talking about and he didn't, I guess. That's my theory anyway. So he got rid of us. And he did me a big favor, because I then had to say, what do I want to do? Which was number one on the list. I said, I gave you 3 things. Number one is, what do I want to do? So I thought, now what am I going to do? I'm no longer working. And I thought, well, what's the best thing that I really enjoy? And I look back and I say, well, during the week when I work with young people, I come and say, this is the best time of the week. All the pressure of working, and then I have these children blowing my mind about what they're able to do. I thought, no, that's what I like. So I thought, I'm going to help empower children, because that was the most fun, and help them. Since I was no longer earning money as well, I thought, well, I can't live in this condo, this penthouse condo anymore. Anyway, I didn't need it because my daughter had just moved out as well, and she went and lived with her boyfriend. So I transitioned to house sitting and pet sitting and visiting my daughter and grandchildren in Australia and in California, and I started becoming a nomad. And as you know, hey, I think Nomadland just won the Oscar for the best picture. So hey, I'm part of the group. I'm a nomad. And I thought, well, how am I going to do this? I did a website on our future leaders, and I wrote a big manual of a couple 100 pages of all the information that I've learned over the years of working with youth. Thought, I've got all this information, so I put it together. So that was how I started doing the youth, and I've been enjoying it ever since, and continued with many things. So it's the best thing that ever happened was when the VP decided he didn't want us old guys anymore. And I'm having a ball being a nomad and helping young people. So number 2, now that you know what do I want to do, was create habits that will get you there. And when we create new habits, one of the important things is, where are you spending your time now? So I think time tracking is very important. was a great place to start. Now I had been doing, and I share my screen again, and I'll show you just a couple things. This is a time tracking, weekly tracking page sent to me by someone else. It's not what I use, but it was what she uses, or it was suggested to her. So I was chatting to her about this, and she said, well, this is something I use. She also sent me her notes, what she's going. She has retired from the provincial government and is trying to set up a business on helping people with gardening and cooking. And this was her notes that she sent me. That she said, oh, this is an example of how I'm trying to track my time and plan my week. And this is my time tracking, which I've shared with some of you before, and say, well, I've been doing this for years, even before I got fired. I heard about this lady on the CBC radio, and she was talking, and I downloaded this from the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation website, and I've been using it for years. Every half hour, I track what I've been doing. A week, which was, as you see at the top, from the 1st to Thursday, the 29th of October last year. And it's color coded. So red is I'm doing personal things like I do some exercises in the morning, etc. And I track that. That's the red there. I do journaling, and I you may know about Blinkist. I review a book every day. So that's the section here. If you can see my cursor, journal and Blinkist. And I review a book every day that I like. It's called Tools of Titans. And I read a few pages every day. So that's what I do. That's my morning routine. The brown items are slides and timers. That is for Agora Speakers International, which I will refer to later. And I was doing some videos for them for the timer on being a grammarian, etc. The green is my time when I relax in a way. I row every day, except for Fridays. And the green is when I listen to podcasts, and I watch maybe some documentaries, but I also row. So in this, for example, I rode 17 kilometers that day took me about 2 hours, and just under 2 hours. And during that week, because on Sunday, it starts on Sunday, I did 102 kilometers on the rowing machine while I was doing it. So that's what the green here. So that's an example. And I also contact people like this fella here is a fellow I worked with actually at Easy Projects. Him and I still talk on a semi-regular basis. He's in Toronto. This is one of the fellows that I guess we call him ourselves accountability buddies. We talk about what we're doing and how we're doing. This is the lady that I speak to. Sarah will know her. It says Mary L. This was the wife of the fellow who passed away. I contact him. This is the fellow who owns the boat. Those are the people I talk to and so on. So that's my week. And then at the end of the week, I say, how did my week go? And I do a synopsis of that. And I do well, better, and best. And this is my agenda. And I write at the bottom, okay, what went well last week by looking at that? What could I have done better? And funny enough, this week it is the youth program course that I'm doing, the course for courses. I got to work more on that. I've been doing too many presentations. These have taken me too much of my time. And when I look at my schedule, I can see, oh, look how many hours I spent on this and that. I did a presentation on Thursday, which was one of the best things. That's what went best was the presentation I did, believe it or not, on evaluations at a Toastmasters club. They wanted me to do that because they have what they call speechcraft, and they want to record it so they can show it to newbies. This is why evaluation is important. So, and I think that went well. So that was my best on there, what happened. So that's why I track, and I also record what I do. So that's an example of time tracking. I think that's important for us when we are, when we're looking at creating habits. Because where am I spending my time? How much time am I watching television or or going down the rabbit hole with some social media. Say, oh, look, I watched this YouTube and 2 hours later I will watch my 20th because they know how to track you. But this is a way of knowing that. So the other thing that I've learned is power blocks. So it happened to work out. I used to use 45-minute power blocks. I said, okay, what am I going to do in the next 45 minutes? But I've changed that. I saw a presentation on the Pomodoro technique, which is 25 minutes. So I have this timer. I set it for 25 minutes. And after it beeps, I have a 5-minute break. And that's the Pomodoro technique. Great power block. What am I going to do in the next 25 minutes? Okay, I'm going to work on this presentation, or I'm going to work on this blog post. And how far? Because after 25 minutes, when it beeps, I said, oh, I went down the rabbit hole. I didn't even do what I thought I was going to do. And then you take a 5-minute break. And after about 3 or 4 of those, you take a half-hour break and get out and do it. I do a bit of stretching and so on in those 5-minute breaks, because sitting down for hours and hours in front of a computer isn't healthy. They say it's the thing, the smoking used to be bad. Well, now sitting and not moving is even worse. So that works out very well. So the Pomodoro technique is a great technique to suggest to people. And the review of how you're doing, because when I have my accountability partners, they ask me and they say, what are you going to do this week? I said, well, I'm going to work on the youth course, on the course for course. And now they're going to ask me, how did you do? So it's important. And that's why I find time tracking very important. And I will be referring to my book that I mentioned, Tools of Titans. There was one of the persons in there said something which really resonates with me. And it really thinks, well, time is the only thing we have that we all have in common. Some people have more money and more possessions and more whatever, maybe wisdom. But one thing we all have in common is time. No one has more time than others, other than maybe you can live longer than someone else. It's the only way you can have more time. You can live to 90 something or 100 and they only live till 60 something. Well, they had less time. But during the day, we only have 24 hours. So but let's not get so focused that we got to do a million things. And Naval Ravikant, who's a very interesting guy, he said, we might live to 70 or 90 plus years out of the 50 billion years or so in the universe is going to be around, whatever that is. So why be miserable? No, the objective is not to be busy all the time. Have a break. Life is too short to be busy all the time. And that's important too. So that's something. Now, when we come down to creating new habits and making changes and helping people, the challenge we really have is psychological. Our minds are set and designed to stop us at all costs from doing anything that might hurt you. So fear, uncertainty, and doubt is always there, hovering in the background. So here's a few tips to overcome that and change these habits that we have, because that's how we're going to accomplish whatever that goal that we set. And these are some that I've gathered, and there's a million others that you can find in those millions of books and thousands of pages. Small steps are better than big steps. Rather than saying, oh, I'm going to go to the gym and work out for 2 hours, and after that you're so sore you never go back. Just walk around the block, to start with. And you'll hear people say, okay, I walked around the block and now I'm walking, a lot longer, or running, or whatever exercise, or studying, or whatever you're learning. But start small, and you'll feel good. Hey, I managed to do it. I'm changing. I'm starting to create that habit. Also in the book, again, Tools of Titans, there's a well-known and accomplished by the name of Rick Rubin. And he had a singer who was trying to write an album or write songs, and it was years and years since his last song and last album. And Rick Rubin said, okay, I'm going to give you a challenge. I want you to come back tomorrow for that song that you've been working on, and I want one word. You've got 5 phrases that we're looking for, but I just want one word. Start small. Just break that thing that I can't do it, the fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And he said, just one word. And that's how he started with this fella. Start small. Great example. And the other thing is, you got to, persistence is important. This takes time. You're not going to change and start, running the marathon from the first time. You start small. It takes time. And if it doesn't work the first time, keep trying. So persistence is important. That's why I find tracking my time to say, hey, where is I spending the time? Am I really doing this? The other thing is that someone else, one of my accountability partners actually told me, he said he had a challenge. So there was he was afraid to speak to strangers. So his friend said, okay, I'm going to give you a challenge. I want you to give me $100. And if you don't speak to any strangers within this period of time, whatever it was, a week or whatever, $100 is mine. But every stranger you speak to, I'll give you $20 back. He said that was his penalty or incentive to speak to strangers. So that's another technique that can be used. And it worked. He now at least is not afraid to speak to strangers. That was his stepping stone. So that was a method that he used. And he said he didn't want to lose the $100, so he started speaking to strangers. Now, there's a few other suggestions that I can say. There's a few books and so on. Like Mel Robbins is a lady who wrote the 5-second rule, where when you think, and it's a whole, there's a lot of videos from Mel Robbins and the 5-second rule. But when you think, oh, I should do something, she said, if you don't do it that time, you lose it. You forget it. Say, oh, I should, I don't know, wash the kitchen or do something. No, if you don't do it, it doesn't. It said you count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you do it. It also reminds me of something else. They say, if they ask who would like to do something, volunteer first. Be the first one. Make that a habit. You'd be amazed at how that will impact your life. So that was something, more of, don't think too much about it, because once you start thinking, you won't do it. So that was her approach. And that I found has helped me as well. Another suggestion was an author by the name of Susie Welch. And what she says is, you have whenever you're making a decision and you want to think, it's a relatively simple idea. Should I do this or shouldn't I do it? Every time you have to make a decision about what you're going to spend your time on, consider the consequences of your choice by thinking of the 10, 10, 10. She says it's 3 10s in this case. Mel Robbins is the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Susie has the 10, 10, 10. And this is, if I have this, like I eat a lot of candy, or try not to, but if there's candy and I think, what's it going to feel like after eating this in 10 minutes? Oh, I'll probably feel good. What's it going to be like in 10 weeks if I just keep eating candy all the time? Oh, I probably won't meet the goal of maybe stop eating so much candy. What's it going to be like in 10 years? So it's 10 minutes from now if I do this, 10 weeks from now, and 10 years from now if I do this. Is this a good decision or not? Yes, it is, because in 10 years from now I'll have accomplished that, or 10 weeks, or 10 days and so on from there. So think about that, 10 minutes and so on. Another fellow that I found, and I'll share this with you so you can put it, it's a fellow by the name of Lee Babuta. And he has a website called Zen Habits. He has 29 ways to successfully ingrain a behavior. And I like a lot of those. And I think you just have a look at it and say, hey, there's some good ideas in here. Because not that you have to do all 29 ways, but there's some really good tips in there, which I think would share. I won't go through any of them, but a lot of them and some of them are what I've already spoken about. A couple books, one I referred to, I think previously, was A Slight Edge, which means improve your habits. Just, all right, I go into the grocery store and I walk out and say, how much candy did I buy? And, oh, I bought less. That's improving. How much did I come back with? Less. And it has over the years. I have improved the fact. So it's a job. It's slight edge is by improving your habits, replace bad habits with good habits. And that is a good technique. And there's two other books which I just say I like what's in them, I wouldn't recommend. It is Mindset by Carol Dweck, which is having a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. And that has become so I guess it's proliferated. It's not the word, but it's good enough that if you think that I cannot do something, you won't try. But if you say, I didn't do it, not yet, is the magic words. Okay, I tried to prepare to run a marathon, but not yet, but I will. So that whole change of mindset has helped educators and children and so on. It's quite amazing. And the other one is Grit, a book called Grit by Angela Duckworth, which I remember what I got out of that book is how do you find out what you like doing? And with children, you just let them try everything. And it'd be eventually a while they'll say, they find what they love. Like I love working with children, but you try everything. And then you sit back and it's not a job anymore. It's something you don't even notice how much time you're doing because you enjoy it. And that's what Grit was and how people work together. There was a lot more in the book than that, but that was my major takeaway. So those are some of the thoughts on number 2 is changing your habits and routines to accomplish. So number 3 is find your support group and search for friendships and community and belongings. And I'm going to read from my favorite book because there's something in here. It's the foreword in the book, Tools of Titans. And it was written by a fellow that most of you probably know of called Arnold Schwarzenegger. He wrote the foreword. And this is what he said. I am not a self-made man. My life was built on foundations of parents, coaches, and teachers, of kind souls, of mentors who shared wisdom and advice, of idols who motivated me. Without the assistance, advice, and inspiration of others, the gears of our mind grind to a halt, and we're stuck with nowhere to go. I have been blessed to find mentors and idols at every step of my life. The worst thing you can ever do is think you know enough. Never stop learning, ever. You can admit that you can't do it alone. I certainly can't. No one can. Arnold Schwarzenegger. So I think point number 3, find your support group, is extremely important. So some of the examples I mentioned, the accountability partners and buddies. I was talking to the one person, Mary, who, as I said, Sarah knows, and she was telling me about a new accountability buddy or partner she's found. The fella is involved in education of people with like challenges. And she is in gardening and cooking. That's the job she wants. He's interested in her side of what she's doing because his family and grandchildren, he said, my children and grandchildren could use, they're interested in how they can cook at home and grow gardening. And she had a son who had a challenge in education, so she knows something about that. But they hold each other accountable and say, oh, what are you doing? What are you planning? And so that's an accountability partner she has. So there's an example. Mentors in Tools of Titans, one of the fellows mentions it's good to, when you have mentors, is try and find 3 levels if possible. I mean, it's not always. Somebody who's better than you in the area of what you're trying to do, someone who's on the same level as you, and someone who's lower level that you can help. And that mentoring is a good thought. And I like mentors, and I think it's very important. Coaches, well, LowellAnn will know about coaches. You know, she is a coach for solopreneurs. And the feedback. Well, now it's time to come around to feedback and how do you support? And feedback is really about, if you talk about evaluations or feedback, it's what are we trying to achieve? What is working, but what could be improved? And it's how do you give that? How do you support that? So I will talk about what's very well known in the groups, the Agra speakers and Toastmasters, it's really a very simple approach, but very effective, is the sandwich technique. And the sandwich technique is you start with what's going well, whatever the subject is, maybe you want to lose weight and you're saying, well, hey, that's going well. How they might improve is the middle of the sandwich. And what could they do, how they could be better. And then what was the best thing? What's really exciting about what you're doing? So it's the sandwich technique. And I'll give you an example. Like when I work with young people, I often explain to them about the sandwich technique. And I say to them, you could use this on your parents, when you want to talk to them. For example, when you were thinking about going on vacation every year and you go to the same place all the time and you as a child find it boring, what you can traditionally do is, say, oh, this isn't working. I don't want to go on vacation again. We always go to the same place. I don't want to go there again. Well, that's one way you could do it as a child, but you could try the sandwich technique. You could go to your parents and say, Mom and Dad, I'm looking forward to going on vacation this year. We always have a good time, but I was thinking maybe we could try going somewhere else. Like maybe we could try this, I thought, or maybe this or whatever, one of those. But so that's the suggestion, and say, well, but whatever we decide to do, I'm really looking forward. I'm sure we'll have a great vacation. Now, which way do you think will work better when you approach your parents with that? Maybe the sandwich technique is a good method. So that's one technique. It's very simple, but can be very powerful when you're trying to implement change. And that's something that Sarah Davio and myself know very well, because it can be very effective. It's a great way, and people don't walk away feeling, holy cow, I don't want to be anywhere near that person. They always criticize me. No, you offered a suggestion for improvement, and you ended on a positive manner. And that works very well. People walk away. And when you're evaluating a person at work, I mean, I've done that where you say, hey, things are going well, but maybe you could improve this. But however, we really like having you on the team. You're a great asset. They walk away saying, hey, the boss likes me, I'm doing well, but I'll try and work on what he suggested. That is a fantastic technique. There's other ways of doing it, but let's just stick with that one because it's pretty simple and pretty effective. Now, what I think this is training you in leadership for as well, because what a leader does, it helps people dream more, learn more, do more, and become more. So that's why this is very, very effective. And I find with children, this is what we're trying to do. So I found my tribe as well in Agra Speakers International. I went and I took a risk. I thought, well, I'll go to their first international convention. They've only been around for, 4.5 years now, almost 5 years. And I met them in Lisbon, Portugal in 2019. And subsequent to that, I've become their ambassador for Canada and for the youth programs. And what I love about AGRA is it empowers you, the mission is it empowers you to become a brilliant communicator, a confident leader who will actively build a better world. And this is my tribe. I've found it so wonderful working with these people from around the world, all trying to do this. And that's what I suggest. Find your tribe. Find some like-minded people who are doing what you want. Now, they can all have different backgrounds. I always say there's always something in common, and you look for the things in common. You can ignore all the other. They might be different political ideas, different religions, different culture, but there's always something in common. Oh, we want our children to be successful. Well, that's something almost everybody has in common around the world. So we're working on those things that are in common. And that's what I love about the tribe that I found. So today I've shared with you my journey from the time I lost my job in 2016 and so in conclusion, what I'd like to say is I think we all want to feel that we can make a difference somewhere and solve many of the problems. So even if you're a solopreneur, That's the key aspect of running a business. What are you trying to help people with? And I want to thank LowellAnn for asking me to do this presentation, because it's really helped me put together what I'm trying to do and put it in perspective. So today's topic was how to suggest and support a change in behavior. Although it's not easy, the simple answer is those 3 steps. What do you want to do? Create habits that will get you there, and find your support group or your tribe. Back to you, LowellAnn.
Well, that was just wonderful. Oh, there were so many messages in there that I related to. My mind is just kind of reeling around. First of all, I want to say I loved the way you finished off. You went back and you kind of said what you did. That helped us remember that all of the steps and all of the pieces. That was just wonderful. The other thing that sort of jumped out for me, and you did say it at the very beginning. You said, there have been hundreds or thousands of books written about change. But I mean, all of these books that you mentioned, and all of the techniques that people have come up with. I mean, it kind of boggles the mind that the struggles we all have with change. I mean, if we didn't all have those struggles, people wouldn't be writing all those books. So I mean, it's just it's for me, it underlines it change. Resistance to change is a human thing for all of us. But wow. And there was one more thing, and I'm going to ask everybody to kind of say what stood out for them. One more thing that really stood out for me is when you talked about your accountability partner or finding your support group or your tribe. In my own experience, I've been walking 3 to 4 times a week for roughly 5 or 6 years, and I met this person, Robin, at choir. She was kind of new, and she well, actually, I thought I was going to really enjoy knowing her, but because of both of our interest in quilting. But we discovered through our discussion that both of us really felt as though we needed to walk. So we have walked together. Neither one of us ever lets the other one down, ever. I like to say, in order to keep up your fitness, you need an accountability partner, or you need a social obligation, was another way to say it. So when you say that you're going to be somewhere, you're going to be somewhere. And throughout the years, I don't know, I mean, she has become the most important friend I think I've ever had. And we're still walking 3 to 4 times a week. And we've been through some pretty rough things. She broke her foot last year, and I had a knee problem one year, and I had a hip problem in another year. We just kept on. And so that accountability partner can be so effective if you're lucky enough to find the right one. Yeah. So, Sarah, what stood out for you? You said you were looking forward to something that you some tips that you hadn't thought of. And
Yeah.
I know all of this work is part of what you do. So I'm curious to hear what stood out for you.
Well, lots of things stood out. The topic, I thought it was going to be about something slightly different, but of course, it's everything Fred talked about was relevant and on topic. So it's interesting how, I went into it thinking it was going to be about this. It turned out to be about that part, which I hadn't considered, and I still, of course, got something out of it. The thing that I love was that mention. It was a very slight mention, but you talked about volunteering to go first. And I'm a big believer, maybe because I've run workshops where, people don't always actively participate at the very beginning. And I know how frustrating it is trying to get people motivated to start, because once it starts, it gets better. So in my personal life, I do try to volunteer when there's an opportunity to do that, because I want to support whoever's trying to do something new. But the other good reason to volunteer first, from my perspective, is people don't have anyone to judge you against. So if you really want to do something and you're nervous about how other people will do it, you can either watch other people do it and increase your fear and anxiety leading up to your part, or you can just say, hey, I'll go first. And people think you're great and they have nothing to compare it to. So I really love that line, and I fully support the idea of going first and not giving yourself too much time to think about it and talk yourself out of it. So thank you very much, Fred.
Oh, right on. I love your point. I think that's hilarious. And the good reason. Right on. Oh dear. So David, what stood out for you?
Well, it's an old coaching technique that I had forgotten about when I used to coach soccer. I was at one time a very negative coach, and the organization I was with told me that I needed to change that to positive, and they gave me a book, and they taught me about the sandwich technique, which was very important when you're coaching girls, because girls don't like to be told they're wrong, and they take it as a personal insult when you tell them you need to do something. For some reason, most boys, not all, but most boys, you tell them what they're doing wrong, they take it in stride and they try to fix it and they go on their way, or they ignore you, one or the other. But the girls, when it's a personal affront, and sandwiching a positive, then a correction, and then back with a positive worked very well in teaching those girls. Well, I'm back to teaching girls again and homeschooling. And so I need to start using that technique again on when I'm doing corrections. So
right on, Fred. And I now I know why we all appreciate you, because you learned well. You've been such a support to the Success Circle, to me and to others in the group. So thank you so much. Let's see. Javita just dropped off. Vivek, how would you like to add your 2 cents? Was there something that stood out for you?
For me, the main thing that stood out was the often the way you say things is more important than the actual feedback. Sometimes, that reminded me of a little. Let me tell you a small little story. Birbal and Akbar. Birbal, Akbar is was an emperor in India. It's a fable, if you like. And into his Akbar's court, an astrologer came and wanted to and the emperor wanted predictions for what will happen in his life and so on. So astrologer looked at the charts and so on, and but before he could predict, he could give his prediction, he was very cautious. He took Birbal aside and told him, "This is the prediction. How shall I say it?" The prediction was Akbar's children would die.
Oh.
So if you say it like that, it's very negative. So Birbal told him, "Don't say it like that. Tell Akbar that you will live longer than your children."
Oh. Right.
It's the same message, but worded differently, and appears to give a different message, but but that has a major impact. So often the sandwich technique is a way of doing exactly that. So,
Right on. Yeah, he could have said we all die.
yeah, but no. If you tell the emperor that your children are going to die, the emperor is going to certainly order your head be chopped off,
Right.
obviously.
Be careful. Right. Right on. Javita, was there anything that stood out for you in Fred's presentation?
Actually, thanks for Fred, because today's presentation was full of different suggestions and tips, and that we all can follow. And definitely there are many things, and particularly I'm trying my best to track my time. So that suggestion is very helpful for me, because sometimes it's really not possible to handle both, means our personal and our professional life. So that's that tip is very helpful for me about Pomodoro technique and all the techniques that you have mentioned. I think that's really helpful. And for support group, I don't have to worry about it, because I'm in a perfect place now. So I'm quite relaxed now that I am in a WA, and I have found a success circle. I have found such wonderful people. So on that front, I'm very comfortable and very relaxed and in my Zen group.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Javita. Well, I certainly feel the same way. I feel I have loads of support around me in this group as well. So I'm glad you have joined us. Yeah, right on.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah. Well, now, Alana, what about you? Did you was there anything that just particularly stood out for you?
There were a few things actually early on. So first of all, thanks very much, Fred. You gave us a lot to chew on there. But early on, you had talked about accountability. And I connected with that immediately, because I know how easy it is to drop the ball, as it were. And for instance, if I'm trying to make a change, whether it's blogging, writing, whatever, I might set myself a schedule in my head, but it won't happen unless I write it down. So that's my accountability. For some reason, if it's written down somewhere, it tends to get done. But the support, I think, is also very important, because as entrepreneurs or solopreneurs, many of us have a hard time finding support. I'm not with WA any longer, but this group has certainly been a source of support for me, especially when it comes to technical issues. I've bounced things off Dave and Jay in the past that have helped. And I think that's one of the things I miss about working in a corporation is that you have a whole department full of people to help you. And I miss just sitting around talking about techie stuff that I don't get to talk to anyone about anymore. So that's why I end up falling down a black hole on the internet, because I'm reading about it instead of talking about it. So yeah, that's what I connected with the most.
I can relate to what you were saying, and fortunately, my walking partner has a great deal of technological interests, so I can share a lot of things with her without her rolling her eyes. So I sure appreciate that. Because you do run into lots of people who will roll their eyes, won't they?
Yes, definitely.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I mean, I have page. I took tons of. No, you can't see it because I've got the thing, but I've got a full page. But I just thought that the three steps were worthwhile sort of remembering. And Alana, when you mentioned accountability, I remember back in my coaching days that I used to find that there were 2 or 3 people that might be trying to accomplish something, and what we would do is have a call, and we did this with the telephone only. This was that early, and we found a way to do a daisy chain where everybody could come on. Regardless of whether it was long distance or whatever, we could have several people on a call all at once, and we would do exactly what Fred, you were saying about the sort of power blocks. What we did for each other, everybody identified one thing that they were trying to get done, and so we went around the table, so to speak, and everybody identified the thing that they were working on right now. And so we said, okay, we will come back to this call in 55 minutes and go for it. And everybody would leave the call, and we would all go and start doing what we needed to do. We would come back in 55 minutes. We would go around the table. Everybody would say, well, this is how far I got, and this is what I want to do next. And we would spend a half a day together doing that. It was really effective. So what you were suggesting was doing it by yourself. But I don't know. I'm thinking. I'm wondering whether that is a technique that might be worth pulling to the surface again. All right. So my goodness, I'm looking at the time. It's 5 after, and but I really appreciate you all for pulling out some of the things that really hit home for you, because there certainly was a lot there, and I'm lucky because I'll be going in and doing the chapters eventually. I'll get to listen to it again. So I don't know whether it's appropriate. I'm not going to ask Fred to do the last word. How do you do a last word on your own presentation? So David, I would like you to
I'll just say that I put in.
Go ahead.
I'll just say I put in a link to the 29 ways to successfully ingrain a behavior. It's in the chat.
Oh, right on. Thank you. In the chat here. Okay, I will have to make sure that I get that down. Thank you for mentioning that. So, David, is there something? How would you like to take the last word?
Oh, I'm honored. Thank you. I am no Fred. He always has right off the cuff. Anyway, I learned a long time ago in my coaching career to be positive when you're trying to institute change. It's very important, and to remain positive. I try my hardest to do that. I'm not 100% successful, but it's always a goal that I've always tried to maintain. And so if you're trying to institute changes in other people, try to remain positive. It works a lot better than being negative.
You're absolutely right, David, and thank you for those lovely last words. So I'm watching my time, and oh my goodness, it's almost 10 after. So I want to remind everyone that it's important to do what you love with passion. And next week we're going to be talking about blog layout 2021. And that was Jay's suggestion. I hope he'll be able to join us, but I'm sure if not, we all have some ideas that we can share. So with that, I will start the outro. I'll